Why is it saying video unavailable? That's weird. Okay, can you hear me? Press the one if you can hear me. Hey, Sky Ryan, Diggable Planet, what's up? Just Amber in the house. Marie, what's up? Thanks for joining me early. I'm coming in here a little early just to set up the live stream and to just shoot the breeze with y'all real quick. Hope you can hear me. Yeah, I had to refresh my screen. Hey, Jane, I was thinking about you. I've been thinking about you. Doom, doom, doom. I've been thinking about you. Remember that song? I've been thinking about you. How you been? Thanks for joining us tonight. We got Kiki Lovejoy up in the house. What's up? Sidonian Snow up in the house. Jane said, was just thinking of you, looking at my notes on your lectures and got your notification. Yay. Well, I'm glad you are joining us tonight. Just Amber said, I hope Saturn and Pisces is treating you well. It really is. In a number of ways, I'm really blessed and I'm really grateful for the life I have. I'm still not where I really want to be, like professionally and all that, but I truly am blessed. And I'm just grateful to still be alive. And every day when I wake up, I'm grateful that, I can basically frame my day the way I want within, certain parameters because I got scheduled to maintain. But yeah, and Saturn and Pisces, so far it's been really good for me for the most part. I will say, even when it squared my sun, it wasn't too bad. I was actually surprised. Jupiter and Gemini got me all scattered, man. So, but no, it's also making me more creative because it is in my fifth house. And hopefully that's going to bring me some luck. Already it is bringing me some luck with the lottery because I do play the lottery quite regularly. I don't spend a lot of money on the lottery, but like a few dollars here and there. So the last few scratchers I've gotten like, I've won my money back consistently. And then also one of the scratchers was $5 and I won $25. So Jupiter in my fifth house right now, it is lovely. I just hope it keeps on getting better because I'm waiting for the big prize. We got Avis up in the house. What's up? Oh, while I'm talking to y'all, let me set up this live stream. I hope everybody is doing well. Happy Gemini season. Happy birthday to all the Geminis. And I told y'all this before, but some of the people that are new to this channel, just to let you know, I vibe really well with Geminis because I got Mars in Gemini. So I could relate very well, very much to Geminis. Okay, I'm tripping right now. Okay, let me manage videos. That's what I have to do. This is the part I hate. I hate anything that has to deal with like tedious stuff or where I have to just set stuff up. Like I just want to get going. I hate like having to go into this and make sure that the chat replay is on and all this. I just want to go. That's my problem. I can be impatient. That's why I started the live stream early because I was just like, I'm ready to go. All right, so let me see. Let me make sure the monetization is on, even though they're probably going to limit the monetization. So it's already on. Wait a minute, this ain't even a video. Wait a minute, is it? Nope, I'm in the wrong video. Because let me tell y'all what happened. And this is very Jupiter and Gemini too. So I pre-recorded this video that I'm going to be presenting already. So I'm doing it live because I had already recorded it. I already uploaded it to YouTube. And then I really didn't. Why did I decide to go live? I'm trying to think. It was something when I was watching the playback. I just wasn't feeling it, I guess. Or it was something maybe that I wanted to add that I didn't include or something. I was just like, screw it, let me just go live. So all this back and forth with this video in particular, I was doing a lot of back and forth. Like, should I just pre-record the video and upload it, or should I do a live stream? So basically now I'm doing a live stream when today I didn't even plan on going live. All right, so okay, I'm distracting myself. But as you can see from the title, this video is about Danielle Johnson, that astrologer that committed murder and then suicide. Crazy story. I know some of y'all heard about that story. Okay, let me add the thumbnail. And then I gotta make sure the chat replay is on, and then we'll be good to go. Oops, cancel. No, I don't want to discard the changes. Okay, here we go. Hey Dre, how you doing? Hey Anna. Oh, yeah. And somebody had sponsored this video. That's why I'm doing this deep dive. Yeah, crazy story. Somebody else said hi, but I just switched the chat to subscribers only, which means that whoever it was, like their name began with a G, that means you're not a subscriber. So I can't see what you wrote. So that means you need to subscribe to my channel so you could participate in the chat. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was, wait, let me pull the video up on my phone. Is it hot where y'all are at? It's real hot here, but we're just getting started because it's in the low hundreds. So it really starts getting hot when it hits like 110, like unbearably hot, where you don't even want to be outside longer than like 10 minutes. What is this? Okay. All right, so let me share my screen and pull up this image real quick before we get into the main topic. If I can even find it. Okay, so I just pulled up the image. Now, my phone is delayed, so I don't know if y'all can see this image yet, but this was a recent news story. I think this happened on June 3rd, and the woman on the right with the blue shirt, her name is Bianca Ellis, and she stabbed a 3-year-old boy, and he ended up dying. This was in the parking lot of a grocery store. And she also stabbed the boy's mother, but the boy's mother survived. And I guess that's the public defender in green. But as you can see, this is her arraignment. And as you can see, I'm still not seeing the picture come up. Hold on. Yeah, this is a delay. Hold on. Oh, that's why. Okay, I gotta disconnect. It was sending the video to my TV. All right, so let me hit play. Okay, so I can see the image now, so I'm sure y'all can see it. But yeah, did anybody hear about this story about this woman that stabbed this 3-year-old boy just randomly? She didn't know these people. She's just, hey, Red Bunny, Diggable Planet, what's up? Hey, Sacred Artist, what's up? Another Diggable Planet up in the house. She didn't know these people. She's seen on a surveillance camera in the store carrying 2 knives that she stole from this thrift store that was in the same plaza. And then when she spots the mother and the child, and when they go outside and head to their car, she stabs the boy just out of the blue. Boy ends up dying. She stabs the mother, but the mother survives. And when this creature walked into the courtroom with those 2 hefty bags just nearly dragging on the floor, I was like, that's nothing but a straight up demon. You know, I firmly believe that there's some people walking this earth that are demons in the flesh. And look at that smile on this creature's face. Like, I don't even want to, this person, we really can't even consider this thing to be human. Now, people want to talk about mental health and all that, but I'm like, there's a fine line between mental health disorders and straight up demonic activity. And I think this was a straight up case of demonic activity. This person is a demon in the flesh. And I just don't have compassion for people like this person. Even if you were to tell me, oh, they have schizophrenia and they got borderline personality disorder, or whatever disorder you want to label them, I don't have much compassion. I'm like, take that thing out back and shoot it 3 times. We have to just cleanse the earth. And I know this sounds horrible. And I don't mean to make light of this situation, but I'm like, when is enough going to be enough, and where we really start doing something to at least act as a deterrent for people in the future to not do these things, commit these atrocious acts. Nowadays, these people, they commit these egregious crimes with impunity because the justice system is so easy on them. And I'm getting tired of it. But what can you do? And then I was just thinking, like, is evil just going to continue to grow? But I do feel like at some point there has to be balance. But like I was saying to someone the other day, I was like, the reason why you have so many people running wild nowadays and it seems like evil is growing is because a lot of the people, I'm just going to say the throwaways of society. I'm going to say it like that. I can't say it in any other more sensitive way. Maybe I should say, because I don't want to say the downtrodden, because there's a lot of the downtrodden that are good people. So it has nothing to do with money, because you got plenty of poor people that are good people. But I'm talking about the throwaways of society where, good and well, they're not going to amount to nothing. And part of the reason why, in my opinion, why things seem to be getting so out of control and it seems like evil is growing is because these low life, basically throwaways, they keep breeding, and they're outbreeding us. They're outbreeding us regular people that got, some type of sense and some type of decency and some type of, self-control. You know what I'm saying? These are people that, they're not using protection. They might be having 7, 8, 9, 10 kids. They're all scattered about. They're all up in the system. And then what happens? When these kids turn 18, they turn them loose on the streets. And now they become a menace to society. People of intelligence, they are usually more control when it comes to breeding, when it comes to having children. Most, if not all, like middle class, intelligent people, and even the working class will exercise some restraint when it comes to bringing children into this world, unless they're like on some religious thing like Mormons, um maybe the Amish or whatever, but they don't count. You know, the Amish, they got their own thing. The Mormons, you know, they might have a lot of kids and stuff like that. Usually there's some religious influence when a family decides to have all these kids. But yeah, basically what I'm saying is the throwaways of society, and again, can't really come up with a more compassionate term. They're outbreeding, it seems, the people that have some sense and decency and that have empathy. And the other day, I was watching this video. I think it was about I think it was from Jordan Peterson. And he was saying there's a correlation between low IQ and violence and a lack of empathy. And he was saying to have empathy, you need some degree of intelligence because it requires you to have to consider other factors and other people and how they could be affected by your actions and all that good stuff or whatever. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I always say a person with low IQ is potentially dangerous. And again, I know some people might think that, you know, what I'm saying is like harsh and cruel and borderline eugenic like, but I'm just like, unless we can get to the people that are breeding these throwaways of society, society will continue to go downhill. And I'm sure this person that we're seeing on the right comes from a long line. Yeah, I know Jordan Peterson is a Gemini, comes from a long line of dysfunction. You know what I'm saying? Like by the time, like she's the product of generations of dysfunction. I'm sure her evil didn't start with her. And I'm sure it didn't even start with her mother, or maybe even her mother's mother. It probably goes back, you know what I mean, to the 1800s or whatever. But these people kept breeding and breeding and breeding. And it takes more than education. You know, education helps to create, you know, a decent society. But more than that, it takes, you know, a strong family unit. And as you can see, that family unit has been breaking down ever since what, the 60s? It's just crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Now, does anybody know what this creature sign is? I was on social media and I did see where somebody said she would have to be a Gemini. And with her smiling in court like that, acting like this shit ain't bothering her. Before she was acting like it was bothering her because she wouldn't even put her head up. She had her head on the desk. She wouldn't even face the judge. But this time around, you know, she's now facing the judge and now she got this smirk on her face. You know, she's just acting like this shit didn't faze her. So she may very well be a Gemini, but I'm not sure. I was looking for her birthday and I couldn't find it. I was looking for the arrest record. I found one court document, but it didn't list her birthday. Oh, definitely, Asha. It's definitely dealing with that age of Aquarius because, you know, Aquarius is about rebellion. And it's about, you know, overturning that which is normal. You can even say that which is decent according to, you know, the status quo in the mainstream. Yes, this had to happen during Gemini season. And there was something else that happened during Gemini season that was related to Gemini season. What was it? And I was like, it was something about, was it something about a bike or something? I can't remember. Jane said Gemini seems right. Thug like it happened at the grocery store. Exactly. Yes. Yup. But yeah, there are demons that walk among us. So we got to be careful. And it's only going to get worse. And like I was saying before in another live stream, these pharmaceuticals are just exacerbating the problem. And then, of course, you got your street drugs and stuff. And why does it seem like every other week there's a new designer street drug that is plaguing people and making them into zombies and stuff? All this is by design. They don't want a strong population. But anyway, let's get into the main topic. Roman, you're getting cancer vibes from her. Is it because of them big old tits? So again, I was just looking at her physically, and I know I shouldn't be superficial like this. Indigo, Indigo, what's up? Indigo said, "Them big old bitties, them big old bitties." She is a dark side of cancer. You get cancer too. She could be. And maybe that's why she came for the mother's child. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe she got some beef with her own mother. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, again, I feel like she is a product of generations of dysfunction. And like basically she's the end stage of just madness that's in her whole family. Because there's whole families out there where most of the people in the family are nuts, or either abusive, or they got, because I've known families like this. And usually you'll find them in inner cities and like backwater country towns. Rarely will you just find them in like suburbia USA, but there are some that exist in suburbia USA, but they tend to be concentrated in inner cities and backwater country towns. So yeah, it's just this epidemic that just keeps on growing, and it's starting to really concern me, because I'm like, I'd be really concerned about my own life, but I have children too, and I'd just be like, damn. And on that note, let's get into this situation with this astrologer. Now, I'd never heard of this astrologer before this story hit the news. So, but a couple of my clients said that they did know of her and that they were following her like on Twitter. And one said that some of her posts were a little outrageous. All right. Here we go. Okay. All right. Danielle Johnson, trouble astrologer, commits murder, suicide. So who are we talking about? Who's passing? Danielle's? She died on the solar eclipse, April 8th, 2024. So it was recent. Hey, Tara. Roma said, I knew a dark side of cancer and she had a huge chest. Mm-hmm. Hey, JB Superstar. Hey, Ellie. She let the dark in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's Danielle Johnson. Now, did anybody follow her on social media? Did anybody used to watch her videos? Did anybody get a reading with her? If you did, shame on you. No, I'm just playing. I'm just joking. But no, did anybody, get any readings with her or follow her on social media? Because like I said, I didn't know of her. I never heard of her. But there's a lot of astrologers out there I don't know of. So, but supposedly she had a lot of followers. Nomad said, I just spent the past year literally watching all of the videos about dark sided, light sided, and the right after dated or social interactions. And it really helped me. So thank you for giving us knowledge of some of these souls to protect us. Thank you. Hey, Abu, a killer astrologer, SMH, shaking my head. Abu, you're up next. I know you've been waiting with anticipation. So yeah, your video is up next. I'm excited about it. Hope you are too. Nomad said, I can't stand cancer. Ellie said, people think the spirits and energies that they invoke are teddy. Girl, that's a big lesson for this story right here. Let me tell you. They invoke our teddy bears. DG said, I thought this was the same lady in the courtroom. I was thinking, damn, she looks like a whole different person, right? That would be a major transformation. All right. So this video has been sponsored by Sheba. Sheba, I don't know if you're even in here right now, but I did email you, and I'm sorry I emailed you on short notice because, like I said, I was planning on pre-recording this video, and I'm blaming Jupiter and Gemini on this. I was planning on pre-recording this video, which I actually did, and I actually uploaded it to YouTube. It's like sitting there right now. I just gotta delete it. And then when I was watching the playback, I forgot what it was that made me say, you know what, I'm not doing this. I was like, I'm just gonna go live. Fuck it. I forgot what it was that just made me switch like that. But yeah. So, and like I said before that, I was going back and forth, like, should I do it live? Should I do it pre-recorded? And honestly, at this stage of my life, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but I'm starting to really struggle with doing the pre-recorded videos because if I make a mistake, like if I trip over my words, then I'll like stop and then re-record and then edit that part out and then having to do all the edits. Like for the pre-recorded version of this reading, I had to splice the original video, I would say like 7 times because there was times where I didn't like how I said this, or I was like, oh, damn, I forgot to talk about this. And then let me add this part and I was like, I was just doing too much. Very 8 of Swords, if you're familiar with tarot. And that's the Patreon tarot card of the week for this week, 8 of Swords. So I was very 8 of Swords about it. And I was like, I just do so much better now when I just go live and like it's just I don't know, it's easier for me. And then I like getting the feedback from y'all like in real time and being able to see what y'all are saying about, this person that we're talking about and all this good stuff. But I'll be doing more pre-recorded videos, but it's just one of them times right now where I'm just like I'm a bit too scattered to try to do it pre-recorded and get it all done in one shot. So it's going to have to be edited. And who got time for all that? Like if I had plenty of money, I would just hire an editor to edit all my videos and stuff, but I'm not there yet. So Sheba wants to know, but anyway, thank you, Sheba, for sponsoring this video. And again, is Sheba in here? I'm not sure. I don't think so. But anyway, Sam, I have the instructions in the description section of this video on how to sponsor a video. So basically, you're just going to send me an email with video sponsorship in the subject line, and you could tell me who you want me to do a reading on, and then I'll let you know how much the sponsorship fee is. So she said, I'm interested in a video about Danielle Johnson, Ayoka. So on social media, she went by Danielle Ayoka. Possible dates of birth are 27th or 28th of September 1989. Source Beyond the Stars featuring Danielle Ayoka, Mystic XL Lipstick, The Scotty and Sylvia Show, episode 13. The interview was conducted on her birthday. YouTube published it on the 29th of September. However, Spotify released it on the 28th of September, 2003. She states she is a Virgo rising and has a Capricorn stellium. I am interested in how her chart corresponds with the solar and lunar eclipses and how you generally read her chart if we are seeing similar things. All right, so let's get started. So I went online trying to find her birth date. So I found her obituary, and this is her. I'm certain because that middle name, Cherekiah, that's the middle name that is used in a number of reports of this incident that occurred. So it says here that she was born September 25th, 1989, which is just a few days off from the 28th and the 29th. So I am going to go with September 25th, 1989. And it makes sense because 25 breaks down to 7, and she was very spiritual, and 7 people can be very spiritual. And as you can see, this is her because it says she died April 8th, 2024, which was the date of that solar eclipse. And she was very much focused on the solar eclipse, and she was kind of being alarmist about it, kind of trying to get people stirred up about it. So let me read this story about Danielle Johnson. Woodland Hills, Los Angeles. Police in California are investigating an apparent murder-suicide that left a couple and an 8-month-old baby dead. The deaths of the baby and the couple, which were discovered at 3 separate locations in Los Angeles County, began when the woman allegedly stabbed her boyfriend to death, according to our sister station, KABC. Investigators say it appears that Danielle Johnson, 34, killed her live-in boyfriend at their Woodland Hills apartment at 3:40 a.m., then drove off with her 2 daughters who had witnessed the homicide. She then apparently forced the 2 girls out of her vehicle in the middle of the 405 freeway in Westchester. The older girl, a 9-year-old, was holding the 8-month-old when they were ejected from the SUV and hit the roadway, investigators say. The girl lost hold of the baby, who was then struck by a vehicle on the freeway and was later pronounced dead at the scene. Johnson then drove to Redondo Beach, where she died after crashing her Porsche SUV into a tree at a high speed. Sources say Johnson had been living with 29-year-old Jalen Chaney, and they had been a couple for several years. She was in the process of divorcing another man, the father of her 9-year-old daughter. Authorities have not yet confirmed if Chaney was the biological father of the baby who died on the freeway. How events unfolded. Neighbors said they heard a loud argument coming from a unit in the building in the middle of the night before Chaney was stabbed to death. A 26-year-old woman who lives in the building next to the apartment says Monday morning she saw a bloody scene. Their door was wide open. There was blood on the floor leading into their apartment, and then a trail of it in the hallway leading up to the elevator. And I saw some blood on the wall, she said. Her father called 911. Called the police and told them that something was not right, he recalled. And they told me when I spoke to the EMT to go in and check on the body. So I did, and he was deceased. He was face down on the floor, and there was a lot of blood. It appears that by the time neighbors noticed the scene and called 911, Johnson had already killed her infant daughter and died in the crash, as police were not called to the Woodland Hills scene until about 7:30 a.m. 405 freeway death. Authorities believe Johnson drove away from the scene of the fatal stabbing with her 2 daughters, an 8-month-old baby and a 9-year-old, damaging the apartment gate in the process. Around 4:30 a.m., the mother and the 2 children were driving northbound in a dark-colored Porsche Cayenne and on the 405 freeway in the Westchester area when Johnson forced her 2 children out of the vehicle, investigators believe. The suspect slowed the vehicle and opened the passenger door for her daughter and told her to get out of the car, said LAPD Lieutenant Guy Golan. When the daughter didn't do that, she forcibly pushed her out of the vehicle in the middle of the freeway while moving. The 9-year-old girl was holding the baby at the time when she was ejected from the vehicle. As she hit the roadway, she injured herself and she let go of the infant, being in the middle of the freeway. The baby was struck by a vehicle and later pronounced dead at the scene. Drivers who discovered the children on the freeway called 911. The older girl, the sole survivor, was transported to a hospital. She is now in custody of the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services. Sources told KABC the 9-year-old girl was a witness to the Woodland Hills homicide. The Highway Patrol has asked the public for help in confirming details of the freeway incident. Anyone who may have driven by the area at the time was asked to go back and look at the dash cameras. So crazy. Hey, Dr. Ken. Crazy story and so tragic. I feel so bad for the 9-year-old girl because she survived. Now, here are some of her tweets that she posted prior to this incident that occurred. So she said, "You believe a new world is possible for the people right now. There is power in choice. There is power in choice. Repost to make the choice for the collective. This eclipse is the epitome of spiritual warfare. Get your protection on and your heart in the right place. The world is very obviously changing right now, and if you ever needed to pick a side, the time to do right in your life is now. Stay strong. You got this. Magic is real. Spirits are real. Gods are real. Devils are real. Religion is not. Anything that bars personal interaction with the spirit world is not. Anything that tells you that the spirit world is limited to just prayers to one set of gods is not real. It's not real. Know your gods. They do. Danielle Johnson's social media posts grew more alarming days before the solar eclipse. So let's get into her numerology. Now, if you look at this image of her right here, you can see the anger and aggression in her face. You can see that she's dealing with some internal conflict and possibly external conflict. But I'm definitely seeing like this hardened interior because she looks feminine, right? You know, she got the makeup on, she got the nails done and stuff. But I am seeing pent up anger. Like she got beef. All right, so birth number 25, that breaks down to 7. Now, 25 is the number of discrimination and analysis, which I'm sure came in handy with her being an astrologer because, you know, analyzing people's charts and all that, helping her clients to discriminate in terms of like who might be a good mate and whatnot. So a lot of 25s tend to be very intelligent, tend to be, you know, very analytical. They tend to take a scientific approach to thinking. Now, the problem is, and sometimes they could be too analytical, but the problem is the minute they stop being analytical and discriminating, that's when they could become deceived or betrayed or become a victim of someone's nefarious plans. Also can be delusional with that 7 in particular. Now, also the spirituality comes into play as well. Like I was saying with that 7 is like Neptune and Pisces. So people that are 7 birth numbers can be very spiritual. They could also be artistic. But there's often this sadness that is also interwoven into their life. So she also has a life path number of 7. So we're dealing with a double 7 here. She's a Libra nomad. We're dealing with a double 7 here. So that could be kind of challenging because number one, it could be hard to basically live in the real world. You might be delusional to a certain extent. But in the most basic sense, that life path number of 7 can produce a spiritually centered life. Prone to delusions, mental illness, prone to be under an illusion, confusion, sorrow, and loss. And those are more so on the negative end. So when she says there is power in choice, especially when she says it with the exclamation mark, that's her Libra stellium, especially in terms of Mars influence. And she's also saying, wake up, the apocalypse is here. Everyone who has ears, listen. Your time to choose what you believe is now. So that's Mercury, Sun, and Mars in Libra, squaring Neptune and Saturn in Capricorn, where she's talking kind of like gloom and doom and, you know, that things are ending, the apocalypse. The eclipse is the epitome of spiritual warfare. Get your protection on and your heart in the right place. So that's dealing with this T-square that she's dealing with, involving Mercury, Sun, Mars in Libra, Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn and Neptune in Capricorn. And this T-square can cause her to basically, like where her message is kind of dark and dreary and bleak. And when she talks about the spiritual warfare, that's that Mars square Neptune in particular. But really, she was at war with herself. Now, the world is very obviously changing right now. And if you ever needed to pick a side, the time to do right in your life is now. Stay strong. You got this. So her basically saying stay strong. That's that Sun conjunct Mars, but also Venus conjunct Pluto that she has in her chart. But also, again, having like creating this sense of urgency, being this person that like wants to get people whipped up and kind of have like this fear of what's to come. That's dealing with that T-square that I talked about. And then also Mercury in Libra, square Uranus in Capricorn. That can cause her to say things that can get people kind of unsettled. Like what she says could be unsettling, shocking. So here's her chart. Now, as Sheba said that Danielle said that she was a Virgo rising. So I did set the time for her to be a Virgo rising. I don't know the exact degree of that ascendant, but when I just chose an arbitrary time that would put Virgo on the ascendant, it happened to be 12 degrees. I was like, okay, I'm happy with that 12th degree. Let's go with that. So with that, if she is a Virgo rising, again, we can't be completely sure because we don't have the birth time listed, but I'm going to believe what Danielle said about her own chart. Yes, she's a Virgo rising. And it makes sense because one of her fortes was to be a healer. Now, she has Mercury, Sun, and Mars in Libra, Mercury retrograde, which can exacerbate mental health issues if she is dealing with them. They're tightly conjoined. So Mercury is tightly conjoined to the Sun. Sun is tightly conjoined to Mars. More about that Sun-Mars conjunction in a minute. As you can see, she has Venus conjoined to Pluto and Scorpio. That has a lot to do with what happened. She has that Capricorn stellium, as Sheba already mentioned, consisting of Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune. She has her North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo. The fact that her Leo South Node is in that 12th house points to the issue with the children, the loss of children. Moon in Leo, Jupiter conjoined to Chiron in Cancer. Pisces on the 7th house cusp, which says a lot. All right. Now, it says Johnson was considered a popular star seller on Etsy and sold various audio series that focus on cleansing auras and healing energies based on astrological signs. Essence.com even lauded Johnson as one of the top Black astrologers to follow and called her commentary spot on, funny, and relatable. Damn, Essence, can I get a shout out? But you know what? I don't need y'all support. That's all good. No, I'm just playing. I'm not even taking that personally. Johnson, and hooray for her. But obviously that wasn't enough to keep her, happy with life. And with her being a Libra, her relationship trumped her career, obviously, because her career wasn't enough to keep her alive or make her stop and say, wait a minute. And especially her children. I got children. I got this career. I got a lot going for me. Essence just gave me a shout out. None of that was enough. Because with that strong Libra influence, it was all about the relationship. Now, Johnson had a sizable social media presence with 100,000 people following her astrological advice and purchasing items for her candle magic rituals. So her being all into magic and the candles and all that, that's very much that 7 birth number and 7 life path number. Yes, Indigo. Essence is a well-known Black magazine publication. But do you see what I mean? Like, that wasn't even enough. Her gaining some clout through Essence wasn't even enough for her to be like, wait a minute, I'm not trying to throw my life away. And again, let's dial it back and talk about the kids. Her kids were not enough for her to say, let me preserve my life because I have children. I need to be there for them. But then even secondary, her career, her profession wasn't even enough. Her success wasn't even enough for her to be like, yo, I got too much to lose right now. Let me chill. No Man said, Black excellence is all around us. We don't need a magazine to push us to support capitalism. And Essence is full of ads. That's all they consist of nowadays. And that's true of all these magazines. All these magazines, they don't even have much content anymore. It's just ads. Hey, Sarah. We got another Diggable Planet in the house. Yes. Indigo got a birthday coming up. All right. Johnson had a sizable social media presence with 100,000 people following her. Oh, I already read that part. Okay, so this is dealing with her Venus and Pluto in Scorpio trine Jupiter and Chiron in Cancer, which can make her quite prominent in terms of the world of spirituality with that Jupiter influence. the Venus and Pluto and Scorpio, that's the working with the occult, doing occult readings because it's in her third house. And Scorpio can make it's easy to attract a large following when you have a conjunction like Venus and Pluto and Scorpio. It's quite easy. So she had that going for her. And then especially with Jupiter and Chiron and Cancer, you could also look at this trine where you could look at that as that's her niche. So she was able to create a niche of clients, a niche of, for her business. And probably most of her clients were women because of the Cancer influence. Sam said, that's why I stopped doing her moon rituals, because I realized that shit was opening portals and letting spirits in. Oh, so so you used to follow her and do some of her rituals? Oh, pray tell. Interesting. Let me know if any of the rituals actually had a positive effect upon you. Like if it helped you out in any way. Yes, happy birthday in advance, Indigo. So here she is here. Now, this image too, I could see the anger in her. Not so much in the eyes, but I see it around the mouth. Her mouth, she got that, like her mouth was kind of tight. So she does seem like she was, dealing with some tension, some internal turmoil, some pent up anger and aggression. Can y'all see what I see? Can you see the anger? Now, I'm pretty sure she wasn't even probably mad, when she took this picture. But you're seeing it in more than one picture, this anger that's inside that can be explosive. I said the same thing. I said, I'm not shocked that she had a large following. Most people are nuts. And I didn't say exactly that, but what I was thinking, I was like, a lot of people, no, I was like, people who are so-called crazy, they can attract a large following. And I guess it's because they don't have that restraint that people who don't have these mental health issues have. And like you said, a lot of people are nuts, so they just go right along with it, right off the cliff. And I'm not saying everybody that followed her was nuts, but you know what I'm saying. Now, Johnson's family member, who did not want to be identified, said the 34-year-old mom was doing well and even set up a new studio. She sounded okay when I spoke to her last month, the shocked family member told DailyMail.com. One neighbor said that the couple was standoffish and had everything delivered to their home. So, them being standoffish, that's Mercury in Libra, squaring Uranus in Capricorn, and with Mercury ruling neighbors. So with that square, I believe that she was standoff with her neighbors. She also has Mercury square Saturn too, so that could cause her to be very standoffish with the neighbors. The 34-year-old mom touted herself as a Reiki master teacher. You know what? I really don't like that term, master teacher. To me, it's, hey, Kawaii, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing better, I'll say. But yeah, I'm glad you joined us tonight. But I don't like that term, master teacher. To me, it reeks of narcissism. I'll say when somebody calls themselves that. It's one thing when people call a person master teacher, and that's because they're like, yeah, they know that much and stuff. But if you call yourself a master teacher, to me, that's kind of grandiose, kind of reeks of narcissism, in my opinion. But anyway, she called herself a Reiki master teacher, trained in alternative healing. The alternative healing comes into play with that Aquarius North node in the 6th house. So that would be the alternative healing. Oops. My bad. I'm losing my way. Okay, I'm back. Okay. On her website, Johnson claims she had spiritual gifts and came from a rich lineage of indigenous shaman and medicine women. So her saying she came from a rich lineage of shaman and medicine women, that's dealing with this same trine involving Venus and Pluto and Scorpio, trine Jupiter and Chiron and Cancer, with Cancer representing women. And with Chiron and Cancer in particular, that would represent the medicine women. And then Cancer also represents indigenous and also lineage. So basically, her learning or being passed down these occult methods or these occult teachings, these occult tools through her, the women in her family, basically. But she could have been embellishing a little bit, especially that indigenous shaman part. All right. Here she is in another image. And this is what I'm saying. Just about every image of her, you can see where she has this attitude. Like she has this, like in this picture, it looked like she got a chip on her shoulder. Looked like she's really thinking about revenge. She looked like she's been burnt before. She looked like, she kind of bitter, but where she's still open to love. That's what I'm getting from this image right here. But yeah, I'm like, if you're taking images for promo work, which it looks like this image is kind of for promo work, if I was her photographer, if I don't know, she could have took this picture herself, but let's say it was done by a professional photographer, I would have definitely had to tell her that she got a smile or something because she looks mean. And she got Mercury square Saturn, which a lot of Mercury square Saturn people are mean. And if you have Mercury square Saturn and you're not mean, I apologize, but you might have a sibling that's mean. But yeah, she got that look. Yes, thank you, Red Bunny. She looks angry. So yeah, this story gained a lot of traction because as you can see, E! News even picked this up. And some of my clients and students was like, she making us astrologers look bad. And I was like, yeah, like, come on now. But I don't know. She's not, affecting anything that astrologers do really. Because again, there's a lot of us and most of the world is still skeptical of astrology. So when this news story broke, a lot of people, were like a lot of squares, or you could say a lot of the regular folks, they were like, see, that astrology is bullshit. You see how people can lose their minds when they believe in some dumb shit like that? Oh, thank you for the super chat, Wellness. Wellness says some of these spiritualists are bloody loony. I had to unfollow a few, right? And man, don't even get me started because there's this YouTuber, right? You know how sometimes you might watch a YouTube channel because the person be bringing some drama. And, a lot of us are attracted to drama. I'm attracted to drama. I'm attracted to a little messiness just as long as I'm not in the middle of it. So there's this person that I've been watching on YouTube recently, and I just found this person. And I can see right through this person. So what they're saying, I'm listening to the video because I want to get the dirt. I want to get the tea, right? But I really don't care what the person has to say. I don't care about their commentary. But when they are providing commentary, it's like I can see right through you. I was like, you're just as bad as the person you're criticizing, maybe even worse. It's just deep. Like some of these people on YouTube, I just be like, wow. All right, moving on. So she has a Libra stellium. And this Libra stellium has a lot to do with her actions. So this Libra stellium consists of Mercury, Sun, and Mars. And these planets are tightly conjoined to each other. So she's owning all of this, especially because it's in her first house. So this makes her very relationship oriented, albeit not without conflicts due to Mars influence, because it's the Mars that is producing the conflicts in her relationships, especially when you take into account the aspects that Mars is forming with other planets in the chart. So basically, especially because Mars is in the mix, she identifies with her relationship. So if the relationship fails, she fails. You get me? And this is something that everybody that has Mars in Libra or any Libra energy that's, prominent, like Venus in Libra, Moon in Libra, Libra rising especially. I'll say Libra rising and Mars in Libra in particular, and in some cases the Sun in Libra. You got to be careful about identifying with the relationship itself. Because again, when the relationship doesn't work out, it's not just that the relationship is dead. You might feel dead too, or you might feel like you failed because the relationship failed, even if it was totally your partner's fault. So that's why you got to be careful when it comes to how much invested you are in a relationship when you have this strong Libra energy, because you could give too much of yourself over into that relationship, so that when that relationship is over, what else do you have? Case in point, now I'm gonna share some sensitive information with y'all, and I'm even debating on whether I should, because this is some but he don't watch this channel or nothing like that, so I don't think it would ever get back to him that I said this, and I still don't know to this day if it's actually true. But just to give you an example of what I mean about Mars and Libra. So my father has Mars and Libra conjoined to his Libra South Node. And he's always been about relationships. Like, he really never wanted to be alone after my mother and him got divorced. So one of my sisters told me when I was in my 20s, I think early 20s, or maybe it was even in my teens or late teens, she told me that after my parents got divorced, my dad tried to commit suicide because he was so broken up that the marriage was over, and I guess he felt like a failure. And honestly, my mom was the love of his life, basically the only love of his life, at that time, because they got married very young. Now, again, I don't know if that's true, but basically the way the story goes, see, my dad was a construction worker, and he had fallen off of the scaffolding a couple of times. So like one time I think he broke his leg. One time, I forgot the second time he fell, but the second time he fell, that's when my sister was like, yeah, remember that time daddy fell and off of the scaffolding at work? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, no, he didn't really fall, he jumped. And she was like, he was trying to commit suicide. And again, I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because he has Mars in Libra conjoined to that Libra South Node. So he, like, when it comes to his wife, and he's been married 3 times, and the wife he has now, he's been married to the longest, I think. But yeah, he's always been about putting his wife first, and like his woman is everything. And he got Moon in Cancer too. So my dad, when it comes to women, it's like that's his whole life and all that type of stuff. But yeah, and I'm just telling that story just to give you an example of how crazy over a relationship a Mars and Libra person can become, especially when conjoined to the South Node, or when it's conjoined to the Sun or Mercury like that. Because again, you might identify with the relationship to the point where when the relationship is over, you want to end things with yourself. And of course, that's to the extreme end. Now, also, her being a public figure has to do with this Libra stellium as well. Being forceful and energetic, and that's due to that Mars influence. Comparisons. So she might have been into making comparisons, maybe through her astrological work, but also she might have been comparing herself to others a bit too much. Maybe her boyfriend had a roving eye, and or maybe he would even compare her to his ex or to his mama or whatever, but that could have been one of the bones of contention. Paul Revere energy. Now, who's heard of Paul Revere? I know a lot of y'all remember Paul Revere from school. So remember Paul Revere, he was the dude on the horse with the lantern, basically sounding the alarm, talking about the redcoats are coming, the redcoats are coming. This was the Revolutionary War. Basically, he was saying the British are about to invade. So that's what I'm looking at with Mars being in the mix, in particular with this Libra stellium, Paul Revere energy. So basically, where you're sounding the alarm, you're being an alarmist. And that came into play when it came to this eclipse. Because she was like, oh, you got to choose a side. And she would talk about, oh, the apocalypse and acting like, the world is changing and basically trying to alarm people, trying to stir things up because she got off on it. When you got Sun conjunct Mars, it's like you're constantly revved up. It's like you're a revved up engine. And you're always like, you're drawn to excitement, you're drawn to even conflict. Violent tendencies, even with Libra being a peace-loving sign, when you got Sun conjunct Mars, violent tendencies is a possible manifestation, even if it's in Libra. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, that's the Paul Revere aspect. Him basically saying the redcoats are coming. That was like her talking about the eclipse. Violent tendencies, especially towards men. So I've read about 2 different women, both of them having Sun conjunct Mars, and both of them shot their husbands. One shot and killed her husband. The other one just shot the husband and he survived. And in this case, we see that Danielle stabbed her boyfriend. So Sun conjunct Mars women, and not all, but some, can commit acts of violence, especially towards men or children. They will, challenge a man. They'll go up against a man, and in some cases put their hands on a man or worse. Also, Sun conjunct Mars in particular can produce narcissistic tendencies. Now, in her case, I would say she was a cerebral narcissist, but also a spiritual narcissist. Oh, yes, they exist. These spiritual narcissists, and a lot of these YouTubers that have these spiritual channels are spiritual narcissists. So that one lady that I said, lady, I wanted to keep it, anonymous. That one person that I said I was recently watching their videos on YouTube, that's what I came to the conclusion of. I was like, this person's a spiritual narcissist because they talking about all this spiritual woo-woo stuff and the chakras and all that type of stuff. And you're saying all this spiritual stuff and you're trying to act like you're about love and light, but you are coming for this other person's neck and you're relentless with it. And you're even coming for this person's child and you're doing it in a slick, manipulative way. And I'm just looking at it all. I'm just observing from the outside, looking in. And I'm like, look at this spiritual narcissist. But anyway, that's what I feel like she is. She was probably a cerebral narcissist and spiritual. Now, was she a full-blown narc? Maybe not, but definitely had some tendencies. Self-absorption, especially with Sun conjunct Mars. Wants and strives to be in the mix. That's very Libra, being in the mix. Remember Usher had that movie? Didn't he have that movie called In the Mix? And Usher is a Libra. But yeah, wants and strives to be in the mix. So when this eclipse was coming up, that gave her ample opportunity to be all up in the mix, talking about the eclipse and all this stuff and being an alarmist and all. Now, going back to the self-absorption, remember that the sun rules children, but the sun also rules men. But going back to children, so with her having Sun conjunct Mars, it's like she is treating her children as an extension of herself. So that conjunction, and Sun conjunct Mars, like I said, can also deal with where she physically harms a child or where there's violence involving a child. Now, with that Sun conjunct Mars, that's part of the reason why she could do what she did with her children. Because again, she's experiencing this blind rage, right? She's just out of her mind, upset, angry, just killed her boyfriend. And she's not thinking of her children as individuals. She's just thinking of them as a part of her. And that's why it was really nothing for her to push them out the car like that, because she was done with it all at that point. Husband is represented by the sun. So remember when I read the news story, it stated that she was in the process of divorcing her husband, but she was in a relationship for several years with that boyfriend. So I'm like, well, when did she get married and when did that marriage come to an end? But anyway, this is another way that this Sun Mars conjunction is manifesting in her life. So her husband is represented by the sun and her boyfriend is represented by Mars. Both the sun and Mars represent men. And the sun typically does represent more so the husband, whereas Mars represents more so the boyfriend. Now, of course, your boyfriend will eventually become your husband if all goes well. And that way he'll have traits of both Mars and your sun. But any guy that you deal with, he could be displaying both traits of your sun and Mars. In this case in particular, this conjunction is just showing, yeah, she got a husband and a boyfriend. And again, it just showed you that strong pull of Libra to be in a relationship. She couldn't even wait until the ink was dry on the divorce papers before she jumped into a relationship. Now, she probably maybe started seeing dude when when that marriage was still intact. I wouldn't be surprised because she does have Venus conjunct Pluto. Yes, I feel you on that. So I'll be speaking on that a little bit. Aya said, I think she saw her daughters as a curse, more common than we think. If she had sons, I doubt this would have happened. Well, I definitely believe she regretted having children, especially with that Leo South node in the 12th house. Now, like I said, she has a T square in her chart, and this is a heavy T square because it's involving conjunctions. So whenever you're dealing with a T square, which is an aspect pattern that produces considerable tension and conflict, whenever you're dealing with a T square that consists of conjunctions, that is like some heavy energy that will usually be very destructive or very messy, very upsetting, ugly, whatever negative connotation you want to give it. So she had Mercury, Sun, Mars in Libra, squaring Jupiter in Cancer, and then also squaring Saturn and Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn. And then Jupiter in Cancer was opposing Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn. That comprises the T square aspect pattern. So basically, this is showing that she's delusional in a pessimistic way and where she's prone to paranoia. So that in particular is Sun and Mars square Neptune, which is part of this T square aspect pattern. So what I'm doing right now is I'm chopping up this T square aspect pattern with different manifestations of these aspects in this T square. And when you put them all together, basically you have a hot mess. So again, the Sun and Mars square Neptune, I'm not adding Mercury because Mercury square Neptune, that would be a bit too wide of an orb. But, you kind of can throw it in there because Mercury is conjoined to the sun. But just to be, exact, Sun and Mars square Neptune. Also, being fatalistic, fearful, failed relationships. So remember what I said. When you got Sun conjunct Mars in Libra, like she did, she's very relationship oriented. She's identifying with the relationship itself. So when the relationship fails, she feels like she's failed. She feels like a failure. So this square, this whole T square, but namely Mercury, Sun, and Mars square Saturn is representing her failed relationships. It's also saying that she has the tendency to be mean, cold, cruel, and heartless. Maybe not every day, but maybe a lot of times. And with those photos of her that you saw, you can kind of see this square, right? You can see the square between Mercury, Sun, and Mars squaring Saturn. She got this cold, hard energy to her. And again, where you could see this anger, like she's just seething with anger. Unhinged and unstable, can snap on you, does not handle breakups well. That's her Mercury, Sun, and Mars square Uranus. Some Mercury square Uranus people, they honestly are like, they got some screws loose. Like, you know that term, you got a few screws loose? That's very Mercury square Uranus. It can produce mental instability. It can produce these extreme shifts in terms of how you think and how you basically are processing information. Blind rage, blacking out, losing her head. That's Mars square Neptune. So, you know, when somebody talks about, oh, they blacked out on me, blackout anger, Mars square Neptune. And this can also deal with where if she's drinking alcohol or taking certain drugs, her anger could get even worse. Astrology takes over her life / decision making. So this is that square involving Mercury, Sun, and Mars in Libra, and Uranus in Capricorn, with Uranus ruling astrology. So again, I'm feeling like she was one of those astrologers, and I didn't follow her or anything, so I can't, really quote anything that she said beyond, those Twitter posts and stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if she was one of those astrologers that was a little bit too neurotic when it came to astrology. Like, there's some astrologers out there that they don't do anything unless everything is right in the cosmos. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's healthy to live your life that way. Like, some people are like really like, oh, well, every time I have Mercury square Saturn, I'm not going outside. Like, to live your life like that, I don't think it's healthy. I think even as astrologers, we need to live our life in a very natural, organic way, and where we really use astrology to aid us in our decision making. And that's where, predictive astrology could come in, and then also just looking at your natal chart, looking at, like, if it's a relationship, looking at the synastry and all that. But to be so worried about what's to come and all that type of stuff, I don't think that's a good thing, because if you use astrology in the wrong way, it can create a lot of anxiety within you. And I know some of you who are in this live stream right now, you could attest to what I'm saying, where you might have been looking at your transits that you have coming up, and you see something like Pluto squaring your Mars, or Uranus is going to oppose your Venus, and you might whip yourself into a frenzy thinking that, oh, all hell's going to break loose. And then when that transit goes down, you'd be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. So I'm all about reducing stress, reducing anxiety, minimizing, unnecessary fear and worry. So that's why you can't allow astrology to take over your life. Like that, and that's true for anything. You can't allow anything to take over your life to the point where now, you're paralyzed unless you have this thing in your life, or unless you do certain things. Sam said that's why I don't do transits. Yeah, and I can respect that, because again, some people just don't want to know. I even have some clients where they'll tell me, like, they want to know certain things about the future, but they'll be like, don't tell me anything about health. And I respect that. I'm like, sure, I won't, because I know you don't need that on your head. I know you don't need to worry. You don't want that additional worry. But then you got some people have come to me, they want to know when they're going to die, when their children are going to die, how they're going to die, what age they're going to die. And I'm just like, that's taking it too far, because I'm like, I don't think it's really meant for us to dig that deep into our lives, especially when it comes to like the subject of death and all that type of stuff. Like, what age am I going to be when I die, and how am I going to die, and all that type of stuff. Like, I feel like you playing around with the universe in a way that you really don't want to mess with. All right. Boyfriend / husband can't be treated. Now we gotta take this Sun and Mars and look at it from the perspective of the men that she attracts, the men that she's in relationships with. So again, remember, the Sun and Mars is representing the men in her life. So a woman or a gay man that has Sun and Mars square in Neptune, you basically can't trust these men out here. You can't. I don't care how good they seem. I don't care how nice they seem, how sweet, how much of a gentleman, how chivalrous they are, and all that type of stuff. You basically have to sleep with one eye open, figuratively speaking, and maybe even literally, if you live with this person. Well, you really shouldn't too early on. You really got to check this person out. And sometimes it just means taking your time, not even getting sexual with them, and really feeling them out, like seeing how they move and seeing how they act in a crisis, seeing how they act when, things aren't working out with them and all that type of stuff. Because with Sun and Mars square Neptune, you could attract men that are hiding things, that are, liars, cheats. Some of them could be thieves. Some of them could be drug addicts. It could just be a lot of mess that comes with these squares involving Neptune, the Sun, and Mars. So you got to be careful. So now, again, we're starting to see what's going down with Danielle. Like, Danielle ain't just crazy. You know what I'm saying? There's triggers to her craziness, if you ask me. And I believe the trigger was her man. And with that being said, I'm not saying that he deserved to be killed, but I will say his actions triggered this response from her. And again, it's not saying that he deserves that, but again, it takes two to tango. And the aspect she got in her chart involving the Sun and Mars is basically showing that she was dealing with dudes that really weren't faithful to her. Also, Mercury, Sun, and Mars squaring Saturn could play out as postpartum depression, which I believe she was suffering from, because that baby that she had was only 8 months old. Now, I don't know the typical time or length for postpartum depression, but I heard that it could last for over a year. So, again, she got a Leo South node, which means that she got karmic debt involving children. And that can even mean that she ends up having children, but then later on regrets it or whatever. But it can even mean pregnancy could be problematic. And then even post-pregnancy with postpartum depression. So these squares can point to that. Death of a child. A lot of times Sun square Saturn can manifest as the death of a child. Same with Sun square Neptune. The Mars influence is more so dealing with a violent death, that baby being hit by that car. Sadistic and masochistic tendencies. So she's dealing with these tendencies due to having Mars square Saturn in the chart. Also, going back to the men in her life, difficulty in achieving longevity with men. And that's Sun and Mars square Saturn. Now, on one hand, she could have been, again, attracting men who were cheating on her. And that's why she couldn't achieve that longevity. On the other hand, it could have also been due to her personality, her being very headstrong, her being combative with that Sun conjunct Mars. I think it was a combination of both, her being cheated on and also her being very combative. So more about this T-square. So being highly irrational. So that's where the square with Jupiter comes in. So Sun and Mars square Jupiter in Cancer makes her highly irrational. So, Libra is one of those rational signs. It's one of those signs that, is level-headed, that helps you to weigh the pros and cons of a certain course of action before taking it. But when you got this square involving Jupiter in Cancer, all of that level-headedness is being thrown out the window, especially if it's dealing with something that she's emotionally invested in. Also, Sun square Jupiter, Sun and Mars square Jupiter can produce a grandiose sense of self. And she's getting that grandiose sense of self through what? Cancer, which is representing the ancestors, representing her lineage, representing the shamanistic women, the medicine women that she spoke about, that she comes from. So she got a big ego just because she believes she's from the, and again, maybe she is from a line of these medicine women and all this stuff, but that is basically fueling her ego and giving her that grandiose sense of self. A philandering boyfriend. So Sun and Mars square Jupiter can also play out as a boyfriend that is chasing women, and especially where he's weak-willed when it comes to women. See, you got different types of cheaters, right? You got some cheaters that will purposely go out and seek a person to cheat on their spouse or mate with. And then you got the other type of cheaters that are weak-willed. And that's what I see Jalen as being, at least when it's represented by this Sun and Mars square Jupiter in Danielle's chart, because this is representing Jalen, her boyfriend that she killed. So this can show that when it came to women, he was very weak-willed. Like he might have left the house saying, I'm going to be a good boy. And then next thing you know, here come this big butt freak walking by him, and he can't help himself. And all she do is give him a little smile. And now he all just like on cloud nine. And next thing you know, he getting the number. So yeah. So again, she has Sun and Mars square Saturn and Neptune, and then also Jupiter. Like, that's bad energy when it comes to the type of men she can attract. The past interferes with her current relationship. So the past is represented by Jupiter in Cancer. And again, she was married, still married, and dealing with her boyfriend. So there could have been arguments about, okay, when are you getting a divorce? What's taking you so long? All that stuff. Predicting gloom and doom, having a morbid imagination, motherhood versus career. So that's represented by Jupiter opposition Saturn and Neptune in her chart. So there could have been times where she was so focused on career that she kind of let her duties as a mother fall by the wayside. But that's just, a possibility. I don't know if that's actually true. So here's one of the images that I found. I can't even read what this says, but it looks like one of the tweets that I already read. But this is the image of the car that she was driving. And if you could see, like, the front end is all like beat up, crashed, total, mangled. So I can only imagine what her body looked like when they pulled her from the car. They said she was driving at 100 miles per hour and drove straight into a tree. And again, I'm seeing that anger in her face. Sun and Mercury in Libra semi-square Venus in Scorpio. So with this aspect, I'm looking at this like, yeah, she probably caught her man cheating multiple times, because with that semi-square, it's like, okay, there's a problem with infidelity in my relationship, but I'm going to give him another chance. I'm going to let things slide because, it was at least, it wasn't that bad. He said he was really sorry. He did buy me that $200 dress, blah, 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 blah. So with this semi-square, it's like, okay, you're mad, but you're not mad enough to actually break up. Relationships take away from her ability to be level-headed. So this is another aspect where it's showing that she has challenges with being level-headed, which would be that Libra side, because of these intense or toxic relationships, which is represented by Venus and Scorpio. Also challenges with money, especially in a relationship, perhaps. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were going through some issues with that. Issues with divorcing her ex-husband. She could have been holding out in terms of negotiating terms in the settlement. And with those squares she has involving her Libra energy and that Capricorn energy, I wouldn't be surprised if she was the one that wasn't granting the divorce, because she wasn't satisfied with the divorce settlement and she probably wanted more spousal support or child support or something. Moon conjunct South Node in Leo. Now, this is a very wide conjunction. We're talking about a 10-degree orb, which is basically showing the distance between the Moon and South Node. But because the moon is involved, we can allow it as a conjunction. So basically, this is representing karmic debt involving children. The South Node in Leo alone is pointing to that, especially with it being in the 12th house. Prone to be very dramatic, especially with the moon being in Leo. Boss energy, but could let this power go to her head. Challenges with love, especially in terms of her emotions. So I always caution my Leo South Node clients to be careful or even to avoid falling in love. You know, there's different types of love out there. There's romantic love, there's familial love, there's brotherly love, sisterly love, you name it. You don't have to have this romantic love for someone or even fully give your heart to someone, especially when you have a Leo South Node. At least you should wait until this person has proven themselves worthy before you really open your heart to them. Because, you know, a lot of times with romantic love comes heartbreak. And for a Leo South Node, that heartbreak is sometimes too much to bear. And also with the moon involved, this can represent the other woman. Attaining a degree of fame, which she definitely did, because again, you know, essence.com featured her and everything. Getting too emotionally caught up in a love affair. So again, when you add the moon in Leo with that Leo South Node, it was very hard for her to not fall in love, to not give of her heart to some man, and to not get all emotionally caught up. Moon and South Node in Leo opposing Aquarius North Node. So this opposition, when you take the moon into account, could produce a mood disorder where she's having unpredictable mood swings. And I'm looking at this where it could have resulted from pregnancy and childbirth, perhaps. Because again, she got the Leo South Node, which can automatically produce challenges with children. So when the moon is involved, you know, that moon is basically representing a child in her womb. And that child in her womb, you know, some women who go through pregnancy just go through extreme mood swings due to, you know, the hormones being different in their body and stuff, and just by carrying another human inside you. For some women, it could be a really intense, dramatic time. And I'm sure both of her pregnancies were probably she was probably very dramatic. And I wouldn't be surprised if she did develop a mood disorder as a result of either the first pregnancy or the second one. Uses astrology to gain fame and popularity. So astrology is represented by the Aquarius North Node, and the fame and popularity is the Leo energy. Astrological information can get her started with theatrics. So when you got a Leo moon and South Node, you're just prone to theatrics, displays of theatrics, being performative, being very dramatic. Fans and followers fuel her ego. And the fans and followers are represented by Aquarius North Node, and her ego is represented by the Leo. And this can also cause her to be detached from her children. So you see how these oppositions work, especially like the nodes make it really clear, right? So again, let's say you got a Leo South Node, and not all Leo South Nodes are detached from their children, but that's what could happen and what should happen to a certain degree. Like, you shouldn't put your, like, if you have a Leo South Node and you have children, that's all fine and well, but you shouldn't make your life all about those children, because you have a mission to fulfill through that Aquarius North Node. Now, part of that mission could include your children, but there does need to be some degree of detachment from your children when you're dealing with those nodes. Otherwise, you could set yourself up for a lot of heartache and pain because you're too focused on your children. So this shows that she was detached from her children. And I would say in her case, in the worst way, because again, she was able to just push her children out the car and one of her children die in the process. Also, this opposition can produce separations and breakups with a lover, and it could be over another woman because the moon is involved. All right, let me see what some of y'all are saying. Hey, my assorted views. My assorted views said, I knew she had Cancer, a Scorpio in her. I see it. The other Jupiter and Cancer woman did a murder suicide on her husband a few years ago. Very popular social media couple. Wow. High maintenance said, yeah, her neighbors heard and went and checked and saw the body. Mm-hmm. WRA says she gives me Scorpio vibes. Well, she got Venus conjunct Pluto in Scorpio. That's the Scorpio you're seeing. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Just me said I opted out at 21 years old. My sun and Mars square my Neptune. So are you saying you opted out of dealing with men that early in life? Wow. You're a quick learner. All right. So let's move on. So here we are. Somebody was talking about I'm getting Scorpio vibes from her. Well, she got Venus conjunct Pluto in Scorpio. So this conjunction often produces intense relationships, toxic relationships, and infidelity is highly likely. When I see this conjunction, I'm like, that's Yvette energy all day. Yvette from the movie Baby Boy. If you've seen the movie Baby Boy, you know what I'm talking about when I say Yvette energy. Because when you have Venus conjunct Pluto and Scorpio, it can make it very hard for you to trust your partner. So remember that scene in Baby Boy when Jody comes in, played by Tyrese, and he was out all night, and Yvette, played by Taraji P. Henson, she's like, where were you all last night? Let me smell your dick. So she wanted to smell his dick to see if he was cheating. So that's why I was like, this is Yvette energy all day with that Venus conjunct Pluto and Scorpio. But if you have this conjunction, you should be suspicious. Again, if you're keeping it real about how these planets can play out, you should be suspicious, but not in a way where you're messing things up with your relationship, but where you are basically, not fully giving this person the benefit of the doubt. Because this makes it so easy to attract someone who's going to cheat on you. So I take a lot of shit from you, Jody. Yeah. And honestly, I'm sure she was being cheated on. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Jealousy. So being very jealous, like this is like insanely jealous because it's in Scorpio. Revenge, vindictiveness, murder slash death of a partner. So someone that has Venus conjunct Pluto, they might become a widow or a widower if they get married, because that could be the death of a spouse or a partner. But this can also play out as death in the form of murder. Obsessive. So her being obsessed with her partner. Suspicions of others. And this can extend beyond just her mate. This could be with anybody. This could be where she always thinks somebody's talking about her. She always thinks somebody's plotting on her. She always thinks somebody's after her or whatever. And sometimes it don't even be nobody that's paying her any mind. Attracted to the dark side. Occult objects. So, she's a practitioner of the occult, makes a lot of sense with Venus conjunct Pluto, but also this can deal with where she has a bunch of occult items. So, in one of the news reports, it stated that when the police came into the apartment, there was black feathers everywhere. So, I guess she was doing some type of spell work or ritual involving black feathers. And with Venus conjunct Pluto, you best believe she was probably putting spells on her lover, on Jalen. That's why it's like some of y'all men, y'all need to like really check yourselves, because Y'all will get with these spiritual chicks. They'll tell you that they do spells, and you don't realize that the chick is doing a spell on you. I don't know, like, what be going through some of these men's heads when they get with these spiritual chicks that be doing spells and witchcraft and stuff. Like, you're going to be her number one target. But I think a lot of the men that just look the other way, they really don't believe this magic is real. And how about this one? Venus conjunct Pluto and Scorpio makes it easy to contract an STD from a partner, which I believe probably happened. Now, remember, the news story said they had been together for several years and they were beefing back in 2022, according to a family member. So maybe back in 2022, Jalen was cheating on Danielle and he gave her an STD. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened. Or maybe it could have happened even more recently. And that could have been the catalyst for her to go off. Or it could have been a simple case of him trying to break up with her. But I do believe at some point in the relationship, she contracted an STD from him messing around with other women. Jane said maybe someone put a return to sender spell on her and that contributed to her demise. Maybe. That's a good point, Jane. Her spells came back onto her. Mm-hmm. And honestly, you got to be careful. I was going to mention this on another slide, but I might as well talk about it now since we're on the subject of spells. This is why you have to be careful when doing spell work on someone, especially when it comes to love spells. Because what some people may not realize is that when you're doing a love spell on a person, you're also doing the spell on yourself. So naturally, a lot of times you're going to become more focused on that person. You're going to become obsessed even more. Like, let's say you're already obsessed. If you do a spell on them, there's a high chance you're going to become even more obsessed. You're going to become even more sensitive towards that person and be more easily affected when things go wrong with that person. So keep in mind when you're doing a spell on someone, especially when it's about a love situation, you're also affecting yourself. And that's why you have to be careful. And like Jane said, sometimes spells can come back to you or back on you. And sometimes a person might have it in for you and they might do some type of revenge spell or whatever. So just having that Venus conjunct Pluto in her chart, somebody could place a hex on her, but she could also be doing spells on her partner. My assorted view says she definitely was putting spells on folks. Yes, this was definitely a case of fatal attraction, Tiffany. Now, let's get into the spiritual side. This conjunction can also manifest as demonic possession or attachment. Now, remember in that tweet, she was talking about, there's gods, there's devils, and she was saying something like, if you believe that, it's just this one guy, you're wrong or something. And I'm like, maybe some of her spirit guides or the gods that she was worshiping or the devils, maybe they were demons. So, especially considering how she ended her boyfriend's life and ended her own life, I wouldn't be surprised if she did have some type of demon attached to her. And she did seem like she just had this angry spirit. Thank you, Self-Made, for your super chat. Show support. When your book is coming out? That's a good question. I've been beating myself up because I am in the editing phase and I've been editing little by little and I really need to step my game up. It's even to the point where my Pisces daughter, just the other day, she was like, Mom, she was like, you need to hurry up and finish that book because I was on Reddit. So she be following like the astrology subreddit. She was like, I was on Reddit and somebody was asking about transits and I wanted to write so bad, like, well, my mom got a book and here's the link and all this stuff. And I was like, damn, you're right. So, and with Jupiter and Gemini, I really don't have any excuse but to finish that book. And again, it's finished. I just have to do the editing. I have to hire an editor and work on the whole self-publishing process. So all of that, if I really was to put some fire under my butt, I would say all of that could take me another year. So maybe by this time next year, I could have the book published. And I am going to go the self-publishing route after doing some readings about it and learning about self-publishing and stuff. But thanks for asking me that question. Thanks for being interested in my book. All right, so you said Twitter astrology, I don't trust. Speaking of love spell, Raven Simone's wife put her period in their spaghetti. What? Is that what Raven said? Or did the wife admit that? And yes, that still be happening nowadays. Women putting period blood in stew, spaghetti, salsa, you name it. Tales of Dre said, love spells are motivated by possessiveness, in my opinion. Love got nothing to do with it. You know what? You got that right. And remember, you can drive yourself crazy with a love spell if you're not careful. And sometimes the love spell won't even be affecting the guy or the girl you're trying to do a spell on, but you're being affected, driving yourself crazy. Now, again, that demonic possession attachment could have been part of what was going on with her. And also, this Venus conjunct Pluto is you owe me energy. So again, let's paint the picture. They've been together several years. They've been through some thick and thin. They've been through the thick and thin. He done gave her a STD, like let's say back in 2022 when they were going through it. And now he wants to break up with her. Like he done cheated on her a number of times. Now he wants to break up with her. And she's like, fuck you. You owe me, motherfucker. That's that Venus conjunct Pluto. Like, I'm not letting you get out scot-free. You owe me. I'm not going to let you just walk out this door and say goodbye or say it's over. Oh, no, you owe me. And that's why it's hard to get rid of people like that have this conjunction in their charts. Sometimes you just got to kill them. But she killed herself and she killed her man first. But yeah, can be very hard to get out of a relationship with somebody like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen was trying to break up with Danielle for the past year or maybe even more, but he probably was scared to break up with her. And some of y'all who are in relationships right now, that could be what your partner is thinking right now as I speak. He or she could be wanting to break up with you, but you're so crazy that they're still holding on for their own sanity and safety because they know you're going to flip out on them. I'm just saying. And I believe that's how she was. He probably tried to break up with her in the past. She probably tried to act like she was going to commit suicide. And he was like, all right, we can work things out. You know, I love you and all this stuff. And he's still in the back of his mind, he's thinking, damn, I got to get out of this relationship. She's crazy. And if you're already done inside your head in terms of relationship, but you're holding on because the partner's crazy, that's going to give you even more license to cheat. Because in your head, you're not even cheating anymore because the relationship is over as far as you're concerned. But again, you're still holding on because you're afraid of what this person might do if you break up with them. I believe shit was like that between them. Moon in Leo square Venus and Pluto in Scorpio. So this is the other woman energy. So when you have Moon square Venus, a lot of times, if you're a woman, you could be dealing with some other woman, like some other woman could be trying to come between you and your mate. If you're a man with Moon square Venus, a lot of times that represents your wife and your girlfriend, or you could just have two girlfriends. The Moon, a lot of times, that's your main girl, and that Venus is the one that you're cheating with. But sometimes it could be switched. Now, also with these squares, challenges with living with a partner due to issues with power and control, emotional outbursts, meltdowns, psychotic breaks. The key in this with the emotional outbursts and meltdowns, that's the Moon square Pluto. I have that aspect, so I know about like how intense your emotions can be and how you can become so upset about things and have these breakdowns and stuff. Thank God, now that I'm older, I really don't experience that side of my moon square Pluto where I feel like I'm so upset. I feel like I'm just going to jump out of my skin. I feel like I just can't, like, and usually it's a situation where it's like I have no control. So thankfully, I don't really experience the emotional turmoil that that moon square Pluto can produce anymore. Because again, I'm older now. I know how to manage my emotions better. I don't sweat a lot of stuff now. A lot of stuff I just be like, you know what? It is what it's going to be or whatever. But yeah, so I know how potentially destructive this moon square Pluto can be. And then she had Venus included in the mix. So that is basically representative of her partner, her relationship, and even another woman. Resented the fact that she had children. Children were in her way. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if once she had those children, she really didn't really found out, this really isn't for me. I really wish I didn't have these children. Her partner could have abused her daughter in some way. Now, that would be an extreme. And that could be either the father of the daughter who she was married to, and actually she was still legally married, or the boyfriend. That's just one possible manifestation. And again, I'm not saying that's definitely what happened, but that's a possibility with these squares. Pushing her children out the car results in death of the baby, crashes into a tree. So Venus and Pluto are in her third house. So it makes a lot of sense that that car accident, basically her crashing into a tree. Her children are represented by that moon in Leo, and her basically ejecting them from the car. That's the Venus and Pluto, resulting in the death of the child. And then even with her crashing into the tree, that's very Venus conjunct Pluto in Scorpio. Venus in Scorpio semi-square Uranus in Capricorn. With this, she could be attracting partners who are not fully committed to her, upsets and instability in relationships, but where, because it's a semi-square, it's like where she becomes accustomed to these upsets and instability. Some people, they're in rocky relationships because that's all they know. And it could be because that's what they grew up seeing. You know, partners fighting like cats and dogs. So they believe that shit is normal. So you just continue to exist in these rocky relationships. So you're in a rocky relationship, but then you're surprised when your partner wants to break up with you. Because again, in your eyes, this shit is normal to you because you're seeing your mom and your dad go through it and your uncle and your aunts and all that type of stuff. Temporary separations, unstable income. And she kind of giving that mean mug look. Like you could tell she's trying to look pleasant. But again, you're seeing that Mercury square Saturn, Mars square Saturn in this face right here. Saturn and Neptune and Capricorn sesqui square Leo South Node. So this is other aspects that could lead to postpartum depression, which I do believe she was suffering from. So I do believe some of what she was going through was due to postpartum depression. And then on top of things, now your man is breaking up with you. Children interfering with her work. So she might have saw her children as a hindrance to her professional life, especially having an 8-month-old. Neglecting, abandoning children, which she did when she pushed them out the car. Attempts to control a lover through spells. So this is another one where she could be using spell work, and with Capricorn dealing with control and the Neptune dealing with the spells, and then Saturn representing the control too. And with Saturn conjoined to Neptune and Capricorn, that could be black magic in particular. I agree, Kawhi. Her eyes do look disturbing. But yeah, that Saturn and Neptune and Capricorn can be seen as black magic. So her basically performing black magic on her lover, that's a possibility. But with the sesqui square, it's like, yeah, things didn't work out as planned. And again, remember I was saying when you're doing love spells on someone, you could become affected. Now, case in point, let's say she's doing these love spells on this man to get him to stop cheating, right? And she believes these spells are going to work. But then when she finds that he cheated again, now she's extra upset because she's not just upset that he cheated, she's upset because the spell should have worked. So now she's doubly upset. So that's why, again, you got to be careful. And at the end of the day, let's be real. When you're trying to control somebody else, first of all, it's not easy. So we can't expect like instant results or that it's just going to work out exactly the way we want. We can't act like puppeteers with people. But basically, you can look at this aspect as that's what she was trying to act like, a puppeteer, trying to get her man to do whatever she wanted him to do. Inability to enjoy life most times. As you can see in her photo, she does not look happy. And a lot of that is dealing with this sesame square, but also Sun, Mercury, and Mars squaring Saturn. Challenges with the father of her children. So when I was looking at this aspect, because I was looking at it for a while, because sometimes I'll do that with aspects, because I'll just look at the aspect for a while and I'll see what comes up in my conscious. And what came up was, I was like, hold up. It looked like with one of her pregnancies, she wasn't sure who the father was. And remember, she got Venus conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, which can mean that she could have been messing with more than one person at the same time. So Saturn rules fathers. Neptune is confusion. And then that Leo is the children, which is why when I was looking at it, I was like, yo, I wouldn't be so even with this boyfriend that she killed, remember she had an 8-month-old baby. Maybe that baby wasn't his. But remember, according to the news story, they had been together for several years. So who knows whose that baby was? But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't sure of who the baby father was, either with the first child or the second. And I'm pretty sure Jalen, who we're about to get into very soon, I'm pretty sure Jalen, after a while, he probably said to himself, I'm not trying to be like this. I'm not trying to take care of a child, not mine, especially the way she's acting all crazy and stuff. And she's still married to this dude. I wouldn't be surprised if he was trying to jump ship and she was like, oh, hell no, no, you ain't. You ain't going to leave me like this. And especially if he was contributing to her having a good lifestyle, which Libra really likes. Libra don't like to struggle financially. So, he had a really decent job working for the Air Force. She's making good money as an astrologer and also, a healer doing these, and doing candles and stuff on Etsy. But, when you got that Libra energy, you really want, and especially Venus and Scorpio, you really want that combined income. So imagine he's trying to break up with her. She's not just thinking about her broken heart. She's thinking about her broke down bank account. So, yeah, I'm just like, Saturn and Neptune semi-square Aquarius North Node. So this is where astrology is given a dark and mystical spin, with astrology being represented by the Aquarius North Node and Saturn and Neptune in Capricorn providing that dark and mystical spin. Astrology triggers fear and paranoia. And her future pretty much looked bleak due to these aspects. So again, even though she's achieving some level of success and fame, she's making good money, she just had a baby, she got none of that meant anything when it came to the problems she was experiencing in her relationship. Jupiter conjunct Chiron in Cancer, being a spiritual healer, having a wild imagination that stems from some upset in her early upbringing, dealing with great emotional pain, extreme emotional outbursts, having unconventional or nonsensical beliefs about race, women, and humanity. Jupiter in Cancer, sesqui-square Aquarius North Node, becoming overly emotional and highly irrational about the future, like she was about the eclipse. Astrology, in this case, the eclipse, becomes the fuel for her wild imagination. Her spiritual beliefs were subject to change. Her statement about religion not being real is related to the sesqui-square. Putting too much of her own personal spin on astrological and other metaphysical concepts. And some of the people that follow her might have, peeped that about her. Being detached from motherhood, lacking a nurturing instinct. All right, let's talk about some of her asteroids. She has Sun conjunct Valentine. So this can represent a lover's lover. So basically where her lover has a chick on the side. Or having a lover while still being married, which we know she definitely had. Venus opposition chaos, a chaotic relationship. And also where she could have been attracted to chaotic situations, because some people are. And that would explain why she was so crazy about the eclipse. Venus parallel Cassandra. Now, Cassandra deals with counseling and advising, which she basically was providing, and it's at the 25th degree of Capricorn. So this deals with counseling and advising others, especially from a pessimistic or fear-based perspective. Mars parallel Juno, with Juno being at the 11th degree of Libra. That 11th degree produces love triangles, especially when in Libra. So this shows that her man was cheating, being in a new relationship while still being married. So it's showing up with this aspect too. A lover arouses her anger, violence, attacking a lover, stabbing, jailing. Mars conjunct Sisyphus. This is where she was probably giving her man, whether it was her husband, jailing, or both, chance after chance to no avail. Because a lot of times when you see Sisyphus connected to a man or a woman, it can mean that you gave this person so many chances to do right by you, but they still won't. So you're just wasting your time. And where the situation could start to feel like a form of punishment. Mercury parallel Niobe. Niobe is an asteroid that can deal with tragic, painful circumstances involving a child, including the death of a child. So Mercury parallel Niobe, throwing her girls out of the car, baby gets hit by a car and dies. Mercury rules cars. North Node conjunct Niobe, shocking, upsetting circumstances involving children. North Node conjunct Salacia. She could have been drawn to the salacious side of astrology, perhaps with that North Node representing astrology since it's in Aquarius. And there could have been some type of sexual perversion going on, perhaps. Maybe not with her, but it could have been somebody she knew. Who knows? Not sure. Pluto opposition Amor. Amor deals with lovers and love. So this can deal with a lover's betrayal or rejection. Attempts to will control over a lover, perhaps through spells. And this could be death or murder of a lover. And let's talk about some of her fixed stars. She has Venus parallel Merzam. Merzam produces good qualities. It can make one charitable, faithful, but it can also produce dangerous passions. And with it connected to Venus, that could deal with dangerous passions involving a relationship, involving a partner. Also, Merzam deals with the roarer and the announcer. It's often found in the charts of people who are broadcasters, who are announcers, who are MCs, who are hosts. So basically her announcing the coming of the eclipse, and especially in a way where she was trying to make it seem like it was catastrophic, that's very much dealing with this star. Venus conjunct Zubin El Janubi. Loss, theft, betrayal. And remember, Venus is conjoined, so this is dealing with her relationships. And remember, I was like, she probably got betrayed by that dude a number of times. Abuse. Venereal disease. Remember, I said he would probably gave her a STD. And that basically was creating this mountain of madness within her, especially if he did and she gave him another chance. So venereal disease, otherwise known as STDs, poisoning, anguish, revenge, criminality. Mars conjunct Zanaya. Zanaya deals with order, congeniality, lovable nature, refinement, honor, money, love, adultery, and prostitution. You never know. He could have got with one of them Instagram hoes or something. Uranus conjunct Spiculum. This star can produce eye trouble, and it did seem like she had something wrong with one of her eyes. Blindness, depression, hopelessly doomed, which is what she was experiencing on the day of the eclipse. This feeling of being hopelessly doomed, having a morbid religious outlook, which she definitely had, and no concern for human life, which is what she definitely didn't have concern for human life. The fact that she could stab her boyfriend up like that and then throw her children out the car. Pluto parallel Al-Nalam. This can produce brief fame, which she definitely had, quick temper, which she definitely had, and scandal. Pluto parallel Parima. Courteous, refined, lovable. So her fans and followers might have saw her as that. Prophetic instincts, charm, intrigue, but also scandal. Feminine submissiveness, childbirth. So childbirth is coming into play with Pluto being an aspect to this fixed star. So again, it's reinforcing my belief that she was dealing with some postpartum depression. Pluto conjunct Alphecca. But even with that being said, postpartum depression does not cause a woman to go out and kill her man and end up killing herself, and prior to that, throwing her children out the car. So I'm not using postpartum depression as an excuse for what she did, but what's in her chart is showing that there was the potential that she could have been suffering from postpartum. Yup, she sure did kill him in front of the kids. And again, you see how that star, no concern for human life, is up in there? Because again, you're so focused on this man that you're dealing with that you don't even care about the kids anymore. Thank you so much, Sacred Artists, for giving me that shout out. Saturn conjunct Fasces. Fasces deals with blindness. It can manifest as a violent death, which is what occurred with her boyfriend, but also her baby and herself. Sickness, accidents, broken limbs, leadership, war, coldness, detachment, perfectionism, pure combative energies, adventure, risk-taking, glamour. A lot of this applies to her. North Node parallels Zarak, melancholy, fear of death, suicidal tendencies. North Node conjunct Solitude, great fortune, astrology. So this is where the astrology is coming in. Occult, government, business, psychic, visionary, originality, personal charm, temperance, and aviation. The aviation part, that's where Jalen is coming in, with Jalen serving in the Air Force. So, speaking of Jalen, let's get into his chart. Now, we're not going to get deep into Jalen's chart, but I am going to talk about some key aspects in his chart that could be pointing to what happened in this situation. Now, it says in one concerning text message from November 2022, he said, I have been dealing a lot personally with my girlfriend that I don't care to really share right now because it's not appropriate. So that was his brother basically saying this. And again, this was back in 2022. So this is what I'm saying. Like, they were going through it back in 2022. And as it says here, Jalen didn't even want to talk to his family member about it. And that's dealing with Moon in Virgo, square Mercury, and Venus in Gemini. So a man that has Moon in Virgo, he could have a girlfriend or a wife that stresses him the hell out. And it could deal with where also she's very insecure and where she could be dealing with some mental health issues as well. And that Mercury and Venus and Gemini, that's basically him not wanting to talk about it when it's squaring that moon in Virgo. That's him not wanting to talk to his sibling and other people about what's going on with his girlfriend. Even him using that term appropriate, that's Virgo. Now, he was in the Air Force, but he had dreams to become a weatherman. So he has Venus and Gemini sextile Mars and Aries, so that explains him wanting to become a weatherman. And he probably would have became a weatherman as well. He had that look that was perfect for being a weatherman. And when I learned that he wanted to be a weatherman, I was like, oh yeah, he was definitely a player. Now, he was just like the rest of us, trying to have fun and trying to have a family. According to a 2020 military archive, and those military men, they get around when it comes to, affairs and stuff. According to 2020 military archive, Cheney was a senior airman with the 31 Munition Squadron Armament technician when he was stationed in Italy in December. So his illustrious career, I won't say illustrious career, but his career in the military and, the perks and benefits that come from being military is dealing with this kite that he has in his chart that's involving his sun and south node in Taurus, his Virgo moon, Pluto and north node in Scorpio, Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn, Mars, and then also Mars and Aries trine Chiron and Virgo. That's not part of the kite, but that aspect is dealing with him being an armament technician. So he had a lot going for himself, including he had pretty decent looks. He was an attractive guy, as you can see here. And when I saw how he looked, I was like, oh yeah, he didn't have any problems getting women. So, and especially considering what's in his chart, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was cheating. And he does look like the type that would have an STD too. He just has that vibe. He got that look. Herpes in particular. Now, he had a yacht in his chart involving Mars and Aries, forming a quincunx with the moon in Virgo and Pluto in Scorpio, and the moon forming a sextile with Pluto. Just that moon sextile Pluto alone can make it really easy for him to attract women. But the yacht can play out as a love triangle. Well, Sam said our weathermen players. Well, they're getting a lot of airtime. They're on TV. They have to look good. They be all dressed all snazzy and stuff like that. So they're going to get a lot of attention from women. And then, they're doing events and stuff. A lot of times the weatherman will be seen at a basketball game or something like that. And next thing you know, he getting some of the groupies that be there for the basketball players. To be to be on TV, you gotta have that certain type of look. You gotta have that certain type of vibe. You gotta be a people person. And I don't trust men that are people persons, because that means that they got all these opportunities to cheat. I want my man to be an extreme introvert, homebody, damn near deaf, mute, and blind. No, I'm just playing. No, but for real, give a man a pair of eyes and make him a people person, and that's a bad mix. If he likes to talk, that's a bad mix, because that means he's going to be talking to a bunch of women when he's not with you, just simply because he like conversation. Yeah, give me a man that don't want to leave the house unless he's with me. I'll take that type. I don't need some man that's trying to become some weatherman where all these women get to see how fine he is every night. I'm like, nope. All right. Moon in Virgo square Mercury in Gemini. And Mercury is running parallel to Eros. When I tell you this man was a player, trust to believe he was a player, and not the type where he purposely set out to be a player. Because remember I said, due to her having Sun square Jupiter in her chart, she's attracting the type of man that's weak-willed when it comes to women. So it's women coming at him a lot of times, and he can't say no a lot of the times. And you know how desperate a lot of these women are nowadays, especially Black chicks, because there is a shortage of good Black men. So if you got a good Black man, he got a good job, he in the military, so he got the military benefits and all that type of stuff. He has aspirations and shit. He's an eligible bachelor, man. And again, he's not bad looking at all. So a lot of women I could see, they would look at him like, oh, okay, yeah, where they would holler at him. And he kind of has that little geeky look going on. You know how some of us like to turn out them geeky type of men and seduce them and stuff like that. He got that look where I could tell women have seduced him before. And then he act like he don't have no willpower. But anyway, Moon in Virgo square Mercury in Gemini, with Mercury running parallel to Eros. Eros deals with lust, sex. So with this, I'm looking at this square as Danielle was probably closely monitoring his phone activity. The phone activity is represented by Mercury and Gemini. That Moon in Virgo would be Danielle with her insecure ass, but she has a reason to be insecure. With her insecure ass monitoring him, monitoring, that's Virgo all day. So she was probably closely monitoring his phone activity and would catch him communicating with other women. And especially, she probably caught him a number of times talking nasty to these women because he got Mercury and Gemini parallel arrows. So that's like you talking nasty to these women, and sometimes you don't lock your phone, and here come Danielle, she up in your phone and she's seeing these messages that you're getting. Now she's throwing the phone at you. Venus at the 29th degree of Gemini. When I tell you this man is a player, trust and believe, or he was. Venus in Gemini, first of all, you really don't want to trust the guy that got Venus in Gemini, because a lot of times one woman is not enough. Or even if he wants to just stay with one woman, again, a lot of times it'll be some other woman trying to get with him. Even if he's trying to be a good dude, it could be hard for him to resist. And with the 29th degree, that 29 can manifest as love triangles. Venus quincunx Pluto. This could be chronic infidelity, again, where he's really struggling in this area. He might really want to do right by his girlfriend, but it's hard. And then, like I said, remember, difficulty breaking up with a woman. Remember, I said she had Venus conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, which could make her very hard to break up with. And remember, I said that's that you owe me energy. So again, let's break it down. They've been together several years. You know, he's been with her when she's been, you know, upset, going through the breakup with her husband, the divorce and all of that. He was there for her with that. You know, they're traveling throughout Europe when he's in the military, stationed in Italy. So they developed that close bond and all that. He's cheating on her. She finds out, she forgives him. She gives him chance after chance. He cheats on her again, gives her the STD in 2022. And then she still gives him a chance. And now he wants to break up with her. And it's like, after all I've done for you, after I put up with all of your shit, I was all in Europe with you when I could have been back home with my family and all this stuff. You owe me. That type of energy. And he has Venus quincunx Pluto, which can produce difficulty with breaking up with a woman, where he tries to break up, but then they get back together because he feels bad. He doesn't want her to kill herself, or he doesn't want her to go off on the deep end, or, you know, maybe, you know, he still had a little love for her, so he's going to give it another chance and work things out. And also, I call this the herpes quincunx. You know why? Because it's involving the signs Gemini and Scorpio. Gemini, when it's forming a quincunx with Scorpio, because it forms a natural quincunx with Scorpio, can manifest as a reoccurring infection. Now, it could be an infection of any area of the body, but I like to call this quincunx the herpes quincunx in particular, because, you know, herpes is an infection. It can be transmitted via sexual contact, and it's quite a common STD. And again, honestly, because I read faces, he looked like he got herpes. He just do. He ain't a bad looking guy, but I'm saying he looked like he got herpes. And he probably had to have that conversation with her one night. And again, she probably forgave him and moving on with the relationship. And again, now he want to break up with her ass. So I'm trying to let you see how somebody like her to lose their damn mind off of a man. Because I was really trying to like get inside her head and be like, what would make her like go off like this? And I was seeing it as a series of unfortunate events that she was going through, dealing with this man, where she got to the point where it got to be, she reached her limit. And again, I'm not justifying what she did, but I'm just saying, because she's one of those people that are like a ticking time bomb. And she picked the wrong man that basically enabled that time bomb to go off. And the thing is, sometimes these men, and I believe he was one of these men like this. So I'm going home. Some of these men, they know that they're dealing with a ticking time bomb, right? They know how crazy their woman can get, and they still continue to cheat on them. And then they wonder why they're laying up in the hospital, or they're laying 6 feet under after they done cheated on their woman another time. And again, I'm not justifying murdering somebody off of infidelity or them trying to break up with you, but I'm just saying this is the possible reason why she behaved the way she did. I don't believe she just woke up one day and decided to stab him up because they just had a simple argument. I believe that this was a progression. And you know how Libra can be. Libra can be very cooperative, very much about, you know what, let's work things out. You know what, I don't want to continue fighting with you. Let's see what we could do to make things better. Let's call a peace. Let's call a truce. All that stuff. Let's still try to work it out. He has Mars in Aries square Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn. So this can make him quite secretive and deceptive with the Mars square Neptune. And with Mars square Uranus, this can cause him to switch up and do a 180 on somebody where you're like, who the hell are you? I don't even know who you are anymore. And usually that will happen if he's dealing with somebody else. So depending on who he's around, he could act differently. And that could have tipped her off about him cheating. You acting differently. You're not acting like your usual self. What's going on? Jupiter opposition Cupido, long distance love affairs. And with him being in the military, that would make sense. And then this statement right here deals with this opposition. It says, Sharika said his brother and his girlfriend had traveled around Europe when he was stationed in Italy. So again, think about the history that they're building together. I mean, traveling around Europe. He's stationed in Italy. Think about how romantic that is, especially to somebody that has a Leo South Node, Moon in Leo. True Voice X. Oh, now you want to get personal. So you said, why don't you show your face anymore? Is there something wrong since your surgery? Nope, nothing wrong. I can't use my camera on my laptop because my laptop's really old and it slows it down. And I've been dealing with these laptop issues ever since the surgery, I guess you could say. And I've gotten so comfortable not showing my face that I don't even want to show my face no more. But when I get a new laptop, and I keep on saying I'm going to get a new laptop, I still keep dragging it out because I hate buying new laptops. But when I finally get one, I probably will start showing my face again. But I've gotten so comfortable not being on camera, and it feels so good. Because honestly, I'm not one of those people that like a lot of attention. I really don't. I'm very introverted. I'm very shy. I'm very self-conscious. I got Saturn in Leo, and that's my chart ruler. So I really don't like attention. And some people might find it hard to believe that I'm an extreme introvert, but I am. So even just going live a lot of times, it's hard for me because I just want to just do what I want to do by myself and keep to myself and not even interact with people. But I know this is what I got to do. So sometimes it's even a struggle to go live where I'm not even showing my face because I just don't even want to interact with people. And not saying that I don't like y'all, I love y'all, but just to understand the life of an introvert. And again, I'm an extreme introvert. I could go weeks without talking to anybody. Honestly, I'm that type of person. But you know, you need people in this world. So, and I like to help people and I like to be of service to others. But yeah, another thing is because I'm so self-conscious, I don't like people focusing on me instead of the message. And I notice that's what happens a lot of times. And if you've seen me where I did show my face and stuff, I'm the type where I gotta have my hair done, gotta have my makeup on. And honestly, I've gotten so lazy over the years. So I don't feel like putting on my makeup. I don't feel like doing my hair. And I'm like, so it's easy to just go live and not be on camera. But the main reason is my laptop, just to bring it back to the laptop to answer your question. So hopefully that helps you to understand why I don't show my face anymore. But like I said, when I get a new laptop, I probably will start showing my face again. But then that means I'm gonna have to put on makeup and I'm gonna have to do my hair unless I just throw a hat on. But I don't know. Would y'all want to see me without makeup? Like in my picture, in my profile picture, I'm not wearing makeup, but I don't think I've ever recorded a video, like been on like a live stream or something without makeup. And that's crazy because on an average day, I don't wear makeup. Like if I go to the store or the mall or something, I don't got makeup on. But if I'm doing a video, I feel like I need to put makeup on. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I'm very comfortable without makeup. But I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like I got to look my best when I'm dealing with y'all. But yeah, you might see me again soon. Sebastian farted. Wait. What are we talking about? Oh, this must be a troll. Let me read what you're saying. You must be 11 years old. How cute. So it says, let's give Lou Sassol some attention because obviously he wants some. It says Sebastian farted and little particles flew into Yoshi's eyes. Yoshi's eyes teared up, not from the pain of the particles, nor from the paint peeling stench coming from Mario's unwashed pooper. Wow, that's deep. What else you got, Lou? I want to hear more. What else you got? Yeah. So, what are you going to be entering the 7th grade next year? All right. Okay, back to this situation. So again, this is him traveling around the world with this girl. So of course, you know, when you traveling with a lover, you bonding, you know what I'm saying? So again, you're building this history with this chick and things don't go so well during the breakup process. A lover uncovers the truth about his sexual trysts. And then Chiron opposing Salacia. Salacia is basically dealing with salaciousness, which is dealing with things of a sexual nature. So with his Chiron being in Virgo, I wouldn't be surprised if he's had sex while on the job. And that could have been one of the times where he cheated on Danielle. All right, Lou. Thank you, Lou. All right. But Lou, you kept things interesting. I'll give you that because I'm like I like to mix things up. I like to be surprised every now and then. I was like, what is this? All right. So again, here's that picture of the two of them, and there's that picture of the car looking all mangled and stuff. Stories like this just blow my mind because, like I said, I used to deal with like extreme anger, and I've had a few meltdowns when I was younger, but I've never done anything like this. I mean, of course I haven't because I'm still here, but I'm like, I can't imagine getting so mad that you're willing to drive your car into a tree and end your life. A lot of times when women commit suicide, it's in a less violent way. But in this case, she went out in a very violent way, and it makes sense because she had Sun conjunct Mars. So she's really dealing with some heavy Mars masculine energy. So that explains why she chose to end her life in a very violent way instead of, you know, taking some pills or doing it in a more peaceful way, which is more common for women when they commit suicide. But yeah, I don't know if somebody could get me that mad where I'm gonna drive my car into a tree. And thank God she did in her life. Because can you imagine if she would have survived that car crash? She probably would have been paralyzed and all broken up. And then she really would have hated her life then. And especially knowing that she killed her 8-month-old baby. All right, so let's talk about some of their aspects in the synastry. So Jay's Venus, Jay being Jalen the male, squaring Danielle's Sun and Mercury and Mars. So basically, this shows that Jalen wasn't fully committed to Danielle, and Danielle finding out about other women, and also Danielle attacking Jay, especially because her Mars is squaring his Venus. Jay's Venus sesqui-squared Danielle's Pluto. Danielle becoming insanely jealous and vindictive over him talking to other women, because remember, he got Venus in Gemini. And when a man has Venus in Gemini, even if he's not cheating, he'll still probably be talking to a lot of women. Though he'll be doing it just in a casual way. Sometimes he's doing it because that's the nature of his job. Jay's Sun, Pluto, and nodes squaring Danielle's nodes. So D said, "You gonna stop playing in my face," basically with this. Because it triggered that Leo South node and that Aquarius North node. And she was like, enough. Jay didn't make D feel that she was the love of his life, but he could be possessive at the same time. You know, there's plenty of men out there like that, where they're in a relationship with a woman, they're cheating on this woman, but they're possessive over this woman at the same time. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is what he was doing. Jay's outside interests, represented by his Scorpio energy, trigger her to break up with him in the worst way. Or, so I'm thinking of one of two scenarios. Either she found out that he was cheating again and then proceeded to kill him once they were in the heated argument, or he may have tried to end the relationship and her ego couldn't handle it, so she flipped out. I believe that it was more so of the latter. I believe he tried to end the relationship and she couldn't handle it and she flipped out, especially considering everything that he possibly put her through. And then imagine she also was married. Well, she was still legally married because the divorce wasn't finalized. So we don't know how her husband treated her. Maybe her husband was a cheater too, which is a high chance that he was, considering what's in her chart. And again, now she's with another guy, and maybe all the guys that she was ever with like messed around on her like that, and now she's at her limit dealing with this guy. So again, I'm seeing this more as a progression of bad, unfortunate events happening, and then it gets to the point where she basically loses it. Now, she, in this picture, she's really giving that mean mug. Like, she really looks like, I will stab a man. And him, Jalen, in this picture, I'm really seeing the player potential, even with his eyes closed. Like, with his eyes closed, to me, it's even more apparent that he was a cheater and he was not to be trusted, and he was not a man to fully give yourself to. But she did, and she ended up regretting it, I'm sure, in the afterlife. But yeah, I mean, I hope some of y'all can see what I'm saying, because I'm not just like, I swear, like, he's giving off that vibe of a cheater, if you know what I'm saying. He got that look. So I could be wrong, but I don't know. I'm probably right. And again, especially considering what's in his chart, he had that yod, he had Venus in Gemini at the 29th degree. Jay's Sun in South Node semi-square D's Chiron. Jay was probably hesitant to live with her at first. Jay's North Node sesqui-square D's Chiron. D having an emotional breakdown over Jay's cheating. Jay's North Node could join the D's Venus. Mind you, his North Node is in Scorpio. Her Venus is in Scorpio. So this is showing she fulfilled his destiny of coming face to face with death. Because when you have a Scorpio North Node, you're going to come face to face with death in some way, shape, or form, and it could be your very own death. She activated the light and dark side of his Scorpio North Node. So on the light end, she could have been very supportive. She could have gave him some of the best sex he ever had. She could have been like a source of encouragement to him. But on the dark side, that would be the jealousy, the vindictiveness, and finally the murder. She was probably doing spells on Jay. So this is another conjunction that could show that she was trying to control him through spell work. So she was probably doing spells on Jay. And this is where I was going to tell y'all to exercise caution when it comes to love spells, but I already told y'all. So, and just to reiterate, again, when you're doing love spells on someone, keep in mind that you're going to be affected by that spell as well. And sometimes you might be more affected by the spell than the person that you're doing a spell on. All right, so let's get into the transits that she was experiencing on the solar eclipse and then also on the lunar eclipse. So the solar eclipse that took place on April 8th of this year, the sun was conjoined to the moon at the 19th degree of Aries, and then also Chiron was in the mix as well. So sun, moon, and Chiron all at the 19th degree of Aries, which made it a special solar eclipse. And there was a lot of talk about this particular eclipse this time around. Like, it was on all the news stations and stuff, and they were really hyping it up. And she was hyping the eclipse up as well. Now, the solar eclipse was taking place in her 8th house, which is very telling. So the themes of the 8th house include death, crisis, endings, revenge, hatred, psychosis, and demons, whether they're your personal demons or actual demons. Transiting Neptune was forming a sesqui square with Pluto. Now, again, let me go back real quick about this eclipse. Now, with that being said, so the eclipse was taking place in her 8th house. But when the eclipse went down, like when that eclipse point happened, the moon or the sun or Chiron was not forming any aspects to anything in her chart. But all of that was taking place in her 8th house. So these 8th house themes come into play. But can we blame the eclipse on her acting crazy and killing? No, we cannot. Especially considering the fact that this eclipse was not interacting with anything in her chart on that day. Transiting Neptune sesqui square Pluto. So she had this transit, receiving a wake-up call about someone, and especially about something nefarious or something that's being done in an underhanded way. Detecting fraud or deceit. A secret is exposed. A paranormal experience. Being in a state of desperation or panic. And these bullet points are taken from my book on transits. Being in a vulnerable position. The dissolution of a bond, and in the worst way. So this transit could represent Jalen trying to break up with her, because it can play out as the dissolution of a bond and in the worst way, because it's a sesqui square, because the sesqui square could deal with situations that you find shocking, unbelievable, or you might be like the person has the audacity, the person where you're appalled at the situation. Transiting Neptune sesqui square moon, feeling like a fool. So imagine he's breaking up with her and now she's feeling like a damn fool. Being in danger of losing a lover, with her moon being in Leo and Neptune representing loss, skating on thin ice, detecting lies, dealing with a liar, being under an illusion. having the wool pulled over your eyes, profuse crying, an emotional meltdown over a lover, the loss of a child. And I'm adding lover here because these bullet points, again, taken from my book, but the parts where I'm saying lover, that's where I'm adding because that moon is in Leo. Being conned, cheated, or bamboozled, yearning for an escape, confusion, abandonment, feeling hopeless, being in dire straits. So, we've all been at that time of our lives where we've been crying uncontrollably. So when you see that Neptune sesqui square moon, that can produce that type of effect where you're crying uncontrollably, snot coming out your nose, you doing that ugly cry, you could barely breathe, you're hyperventilated, that type of transit. Transiting moon and north node in Aries, quincunx Venus in Scorpio. So this was before the eclipse took place, because this did happen in the wee hours of the early morning. So this was when the moon was at the 15th degree of Aries along with the north node. So with that north node in Aries, that can manifest as violence. And with the moon being conjoined to the north node during that time, it just increased that possibility of violence taking place. Now, I have pulled the transit chart for when she was in the car driving with the kids in the car. So by the time the moon was on that north node, she had already stabbed her boyfriend, basically. So the stability of a relationship is threatened. A relationship comes to an end or a fork in the road. Also, I gotta mention, so keep in mind this north node in Aries, quincunx Venus in Scorpio, that's considered like a major transit, a transit of the outer planetary bodies. So know that that transit had been in effect for at least a week already. North node in Aries, quincunx Venus in Scorpio. So when that moon landed on the north node, it like activated that transit. So a relationship comes to an end or a fork in the road. A relationship is on the rocks or on shaky ground. And the reason why I'm focusing on relationships is because of the Venus. A broken agreement. A struggle ensues, physical confrontation, because that north node's in Aries. Stabbing, jailing. So this is the stabbing aspect, because Aries represents knives. Stabbing, jailing, resulting in his death, with Venus being in Scorpio. Transiting moon and north node in Aries square and south node in Libra square Chiron in Cancer. So the moon and north node in Aries was also squaring her Chiron. Old wounds are reopened, being cheated on, being emotionally wounded, inappropriate contact, being in panic mode, being anguished, a bad experience that leaves her scarred, being violated, being offended or insulted. Transiting Jupiter, sesqui square Mars, reckless behavior, going overboard, someone gets over on you, fumbling, being overwhelmed with anger, righteous indignation, losing your head, blowing a situation out of proportion. Transiting Venus was opposing Mars, discovering a woman that her man is cheating with, or a woman could have came up in the conversation, in the disagreement she was having with him, a battle of the sexes, being defensive, a confrontation involving a woman, her relationship was on the line. Also, this could be where one's individual desires take a backseat to what their partner needs or desires. A woman gets you angry or fired up. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if a woman came up in that argument, or it could have been over a woman, or it could have been over him breaking up with her. And even to add insult to injury, it could have been he's breaking up with her. She knows that he's dealing with this other woman. So remember I said that Libra with the comparisons. So she knows that he's going to break up with her. Well, he's breaking up with her to be with this other woman. And can you imagine how that would feel to someone like her who has Sun conjunct Mars in Libra, and then add Mercury into the mix, and then those squares? And then for the lunar eclipse, the lunar eclipse took place on March 25th, and it took place in her first and seventh houses, with the moon being in the first and her sun being, the transiting sun being in the seventh. So the themes were self and relationship. But for Danielle, self and relationships are one and the same. Transiting moon conjoined to Mars. So during the day or on the day of the lunar eclipse, but before the lunar eclipse took place, the moon landed on her Mars. So it was 2 degrees separating from that aspect when that eclipse took place. So with the moon being on her Mars that day, much focus was most likely placed on her man, her relationship, especially in terms of conflict, anger, aggression, and fighting. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were fighting on the day of the lunar eclipse because the moon was on her Mars. Transiting Sun, Neptune, Venus, and Saturn was in her 7th house. Relationship was going through some trials and tribulations. The eclipse could be indicative of a turning point in the relationship. Transiting Jupiter was opposing her Venus. The security of her relationship was hanging in the balance, perhaps, with this transit. Could have become more possessive over Jalen due to this transit because Jupiter was in Taurus at the time. And then also I wanted to take a look at her solar arc directed chart just to see what was going down that was representing the murder and death. And the closest aspect that she had in the solar arc directed chart was solar arc Neptune in Aquarius squaring Pluto in Scorpio. And we're talking about the 13th degree here, with Neptune in Aquarius being at the 13th degree and Pluto being at the 13th degree of Scorpio. So this is representing a tragic death, wielding less power or influence, an out-of-body experience, which I'm pretty sure she was having while she was driving that car, or even when she was killing her boyfriend. A secret is exposed, the unexpected or sudden dissolution of a bond, losing control, desperation causes you to commit a regrettable act, a horrifying experience, being in a precarious position, a dangerous mix. In her case, you could say astrology, the eclipse delusions, and the emotional instability. So again, the eclipses really didn't come into play when it came to what she did. But with this solar arc direction, it can represent that her use of astrology was contributing to her getting all whipped up into a frenzy. But I really believe that the eclipses really didn't have anything to do with her committing murder and then suicide. It basically just coincided with that event. A serious mishap, a series of unfortunate events. So that concludes my reading on Danielle Johnson, and I'm not sure if Sheba is in this chat. If you are Sheba, you can make yourself known. I don't think I see you, but if you're not in the chat, you could catch the replay. But thank you again for sponsoring this video. And I wanted to, delve into her chart anyway, so I'm glad you sponsored this video. But yeah, this is a tragic story. And I think the main takeaway is that you can't put too much into someone else. But when you have all that Libra energy like she had, Sun, Mercury, and Mars, it could be hard to separate yourself from that relationship. And again, if you identify with the relationship too much, if that relationship fails, you could feel like you failed and now you're on the path of destruction because your relationship is no longer. But yeah, just be careful with partnering up with people, especially nowadays. Like I always say, in these modern days and times, you need to adjust for inflation when it comes to astrology. So, like back in 1950, somebody could have had some of the aspects that are in her chart, and they may not have done what she did. But because we're living in different times and where people are more narcissistic and people are lacking impulse control more than ever before, then we're going to have some extreme circumstances, like extreme examples of some of these aspects. Because again, we all have challenging aspects in our chart, and some of these aspects that Danielle had in her chart, we might have in our own charts, but that doesn't mean that we're going to go to the extremes that Danielle did. Keep in mind that when it comes to these planets, signs, aspects, aspect patterns, that there's different degrees to them. There's different what would you say, levels to them. So you could be the person with like Sun square Mars or Sun square Saturn, and you're basically experiencing the light end of what that could produce. But then somebody else is going to experience the extreme version of that same aspect. And a lot of it has to do with your environment, how you were raised, and all that. So, yeah, with that being said, I just want to thank everybody for hanging with me. I know it's getting late, especially on the East Coast. Stay tuned. I got another video coming up. I hope I can go live with it either Thursday, but if something comes up on Thursday, I'll definitely be doing it this Saturday. So stay tuned for that. And I just want to thank all my subscribers. I want to thank my Diggable Planets channel members. Thank y'all. I want to thank my moderators, my patrons, and anybody who is viewing this channel for the first time. Consider subscribing. Please like this video on the way out so that it can get some attention. And thank you, everybody. Love you all. I'll be back real soon. Peace.